Well, any person who dares to take on authority, any priest who dares to accept the responsibility of guiding a parish flock, anyone who takes the risk of leadership, even in a family, should shake a little bit after hearing these readings from our scriptures, especially that first reading from the prophet Malachi. I was getting a little uncomfortable in my fancy seat up here in the front of church. It gives us the chance to really consider what authority is for, whether or not we've embraced the gift that has been entrusted to us, and whether or not we're using it for ourselves or for the sake of those that have been given to us. Authority is a bit of a nasty word these days. People often use it to refer to some abuse of power or manipulation of another. In the words of the prophet Malachi, this is not a new thing. In the words of the prophet Malachi, you have turned aside from the way and have caused many to falter by your instruction. You have made void the covenant of Levi. It's not a small thing. And certainly we've all seen it. We've witnessed how authority and power can be used to keep another down and to rule with an iron fist. But maybe we haven't seen authority used as it is intended, which is to safeguard the truth and the goodness of the person. Authority shares the same root as authorship, as one who writes the story, who sets the stage and lays out the path. Authority references a beginning, and not just any random beginning, but a beginning with a purpose. The role of those who are in authority is to lead them to accomplish the purpose that is set for them. And this is why Jesus is railing against the misuse of authority by the scribes and Pharisees, because they've used their positions of authority to keep people down and to oppress them with laws that are too heavy to carry. And all the while, they are seeking prominence and honor from those they oppress. But true authority never points to itself, but always points to the one who is the author of all things. This is why true leaders don't make themselves the center of attention. True shepherds, true leaders will not make themselves the destination. There's always another to whom we are being led. There's always another who has greater authority and who has a greater sense of what we're made for. And so we have to always redirect others to the one who made them. And I know I'm great, but I am not enough. You know, we may have great parents, but they're not enough. You may have a wonderful spouse, but they're not enough. Nobody is enough. There's no person in this world who is enough for us. There's no one who can satisfy all the longing and the desire that we have for the infinite. There's nobody on this earth who can do that. And so that's why the use of authority on this earth is never inward pointing. It's always pointed towards the one who made us, the one who has authored our lives. And this is why those words from St. Paul in the second reading are so valuable to us. He says to his people, and there's such tenderness here. He says, with such affection for you, we were determined to share with you not only the gospel of God, but our very selves as well. So dearly beloved had you become to us. Our very selves. This is what St. Paul is calling us to share, our very selves, not a repetition of words that we hear Jesus say, not some memorized prayers that we just can roll off our tongue, but we're called to give our very selves. In times when it's inconvenient, when it doesn't fit with our schedule. We're called to respond to the people that God puts in front of us, not in a shallow or superficial way. Oh, it's going to be okay. God loves you. Take care of yourself. Now get out of my way. We can do this to people. We can brush them off. But St. Paul says clearly, give them yourself, your very self. Give them your time, your attention, your love, your affection. I remember, because it's not easy, I remember distinctly, it was my first assignment, and there was a time in my first assignment where I had 4 masses on Sunday, just Sunday itself. And I was probably complaining about it. Guilty, okay, 4 masses. And someone said to me, I'll never forget his face. He said, well, I mean, it's just like 4 hours of work. I mean, what's the big deal? And took a little breath before I responded. But really, if I didn't care about you, this would be much easier. You know, I was just adding up. In the last 24 hours, I've heard 4 of those hours have been spent in confession. And I could just say, just pray the Hail Mary and absolve you and move on. But that's not what you're looking for. You don't come here to have somebody read out of a book with no care and concern for you. Look, if you're a parent and you don't care about your child, that's a problem. Parenting is hard because you love your children. If your doctor doesn't care about you, there's something wrong. You know, if they don't care to distinguish between a cold and cancer, like that's a problem. If they don't love you enough to do that investigation. Life would be easy if we didn't have to care. And this is why we need the words of St. Paul. Give your very selves. Not something quick, not something trite, not pretty words. Give yourself. Give your attention and your love to those who need it. This is what we're called to be for each other. Not repetitious robots, but people with a heart that longs to help another, to be with another, to walk with another. And so we can ask ourselves in this sense, are we living the authority of Jesus? Because the authority of Jesus is meant to guide us to the one who made us. Are we exercising that authority on behalf of Christ? Because if we're not, then this great act of love by Christ stays on the cross. It stays locked in the tomb. We're called to exercise the authority of Christ, which is to exercise this outpouring of mercy, an outpouring of hope and joy and fulfillment. And so let's ask the Lord today to help us to not abuse that authority, which would mean to keep it to ourselves. To say, hey, thanks God for what you've done for me, but I'm not going to share it with anyone else. That's an abuse of authority. Let's ask the Lord to help us to use and to act out of his authority, to call people to life, to show them mercy, and to help them to see that there is a greater hope.